Hello?
Hello, Arin. Slow night tonight, isn't it?
Who is this?
Who, me? I'm just a guy looking for some company.
Well, you called the wrong guy, I was just about to play Alan Wake 2.
Really? Do you like scary games?
You could say that.
What's your favorite scary game?
It's kinda hard to beat Bloodborne, to be honest.
Isn't that a little hard for most people?
Well, yeah, but the fun is to overcome those challenges.
I prefer simpler games, one based on scary movies. You know, like Friday the 13th.
Well, why? Those games almost never do those movies justice. They're pretty terrible, to be honest.
Oh, we got ourselves a critic over here. I have strong feelings about them. Makes me want to do something bad to
I'm bored.
them.
Goodbye.
Wait!
I don't know where that guy gets his taste from.
Licensed games. I've covered plenty of them on the channel before, and most of them make me want to swallow gasoline. It's funny though, licensed games have been around almost as long as video games in general, going as far back as the Atari 2600. Jaws, Spider-Man, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and of course, the infamous E.T., all had licensed games released on Atari. Whenever any piece of media does well, especially in the 80s, there's going to be a licensed game made out of it. This includes the many iconic slasher horror films of the 70s and 80s. Considering how many iconic film characters come from these movies, it was only a matter of time before games were made out of them. And I would talk about them, but to be honest, I'm not really feeling it. So I'll just get back to...
Hello?
Now you listen here, you little shit. You hang up on me again and I'll carve inside your neck until I feel bone, you understand?
Now listen here. I want to play a game. Or rather, I want you to play some games.
What kind of games?
Bad ones. If you want to live, you'll have to find a good slasher movie game. You have 1 hour. Don't keep me waiting.
Well, I suppose that we're gonna talk about slasher movie games now. Let's start with the Atari 2600.
First up is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Atari 2600, released in 1983. Yeah, this is my first time talking about an Atari game on the channel, so this'll be fun. At least it would be if my life wasn't on the line. We start playing and I'm immediately stuck on a wheelchair. Great start. So in this game, you play as Leatherface running around and slicing up every victim you see. And that's it, that's all you do. So given how simple of a game this is, how could they possibly screw it up? Well, just listen. Yes, every single time you encounter a girl to kill, it plays that ear-piercing sound effect. And I mean every single time. That would be bad enough, but for some reason, Leatherface gets stuck on everything. Wheelchairs, cow skulls, fences, sticks on the ground. Pretty much everything about this game is designed to annoy you. Hang on, is that supposed to be the Sawyer farm over there? Why is it so small? I think they were trying to do a perspective thing, but the trees are fucking huge. So either this forest has giant-sized trees, or Leatherface lives in a Polly Pocket house. But yeah, what else do you want me to say about this? Leatherface looks like he's wearing a pajama onesie and has his chainsaw as his dick. And when he runs out of fuel, the girl in the pink dress kicks him so hard he vaporizes from existence. Believe it or not, this game actually had an unreleased prototype that was made by a bunch of programmers from Sierra Entertainment. And wouldn't you believe it, it's actually worse! It's a two-player game where one controls the killer and the other controls the victim. And yes, I said killer, because outside of the title, this game has almost nothing to do with the movie. At least the final game had a chainsaw in it. It didn't have anything else, but at least it got the main f***ing weapon correct. Who the hell is this purple guy waving his hand around? And what is it with this map? Am I playing a horror game or Bomberman? Let's move on to another famous horror franchise, Halloween. The original film was made 5 years after Texas Chainsaw, so hopefully the game will be better. We're a girl roaming around an empty house looking for children to save from Michael Myers. Wait. Is that supposed to be Laurie Strode? That looks nothing like her. The bright pink tutu on her is hideous enough, but why does her head look like an alien spacecraft? Anyway, the goal is to bring the children from one side of the house to another before they're killed by... Oh Lord, he coming! Wow, Michael, I want to know how you managed to find a bald William Shatner mask. And instead of using a knife, he decided to use his praying mantis hands instead. You can actually fight back against Michael by picking up these, swords? Off the ground and attacking him with them. Good thing too, since if you or a child get caught out by Michael... Oh my god! That is brutal! It may not seem like much to some, but video games on Atari didn't usually murder children, and games today still don't, really. However, aside from that, there's not really much to say. I mean, it's Atari. There's not much going on gameplay-wise. At the very least, it actually feels like a Halloween game.
Hey, I found a slasher game that could work. Halloween on Atari.
Aw, I'm afraid that's not good enough. Really? An Atari game no one has ever heard of? Don't make me laugh.
Well, fine then, asshole. How about a game on the NES, like, I don't know, Friday the 13th?
Okay, so from the cover art, you might think that it could be at least decent to play. However, anyone who was around gaming YouTube in the 2000s will notice a certain peculiar logo on the box. For those of you too young to know, LJN is infamous for making some of the worst games ever on the NES. Most of them were brought to light on YouTube by the angry video game nerd. So you know that we're in for a great time! Although to be fair, LJN only published the game. The game itself was developed by Atlus, the same studio behind Shin Megami Tensei and its spin-off series Persona. So clearly the game is actually good, right? Given how great Persona games in particular are? Well, no! The game itself peaks with the cool little intro of the knife going into Jason's mask. After that, it all goes downhill. This is easily one of the most confusing and annoying games I think I've ever played. As soon as you start playing, your ears are harassed by two things: the Jason alarm in the top left corner and this awful 6-second loop of a music track. This is 70% of the game, by the way. That would be annoying enough, but it gets worse from there. The standard rock weapon you have goes over the... Dr. Seuss zombies or something? Your weapon goes over your enemies if you don't shoot it in the right spot, since it has a stupid arc when you throw it, which does absolutely nothing but waste your time. On top of that, the perspective of this map makes it a bitch to travel. Do you see this map? This is where I am. And that's where Jason is. The fastest way for me to get there is this path right here. So logically, I think I'm supposed to go left. So I spend some time going left, then I open up the map again, only to realize that, oh, I was actually going right this whole time. How the f does this game have such a butchered perspective like this? It's just so damn annoying always having to make sure I'm going in the right direction, because the perspective on this game sucks ass. When you finally reach the cabin that Jason's in, you'll have a one-on-one fight with the J-Man himself. And man, talk about a color palette so infamously ugly that other Friday the 13th games would go on to include it as a costume for Jason. Besides that, the fight itself is pretty much just Punch-Out on the NES, right down to dodging Jason's attacks by weaving around them. If you have the knife in your inventory, you can do more damage to Jason in the fight, but not that much more. The game only ends when either Jason dies or all the camp counselors die, but frankly, the game itself is just so tedious and unfun to play that there's no reason to play this over any other horror game. It's just as fun to deal with as cat vomit. But hey, was one shitty LJN game not enough for you? How about another one? This time on Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, I'll give it this. The title screen looks pretty solid. The first thing that I noticed is that, hot damn, the soundtrack for this game is way better than it has any right to be. And why is that? Well, that's because none other than David Wise himself composed the music. The same David Wise as the Donkey Kong Country trilogy on Super Nintendo. In fact, the game itself was published by LJN, but developed by Rare. It's really fascinating to see what a Rare game was like before Donkey Kong Country. Now, don't get me wrong, the game itself is flawed as hell. Who the hell is this man in a red jumpsuit we're playing as? That sure as hell ain't Nancy Thompson. Why are there just falling rocks from the sky? And what is it with these stock-ass enemies we're dealing with? Snakes, bats, and rats? Even the scarier monsters consist of blue zombies, red devils, spiders, ghosts, and skeletons. Seriously, with how generic these enemies are, they should have just called it... a really bad adaptation or something? I don't know. Aside from all that though, shave my back. This actually isn't that bad of a game. I mean, it's not great, and I wouldn't go out of my way to play it nowadays, but for a licensed Nintendo game, and especially an LJN game, it's way better than it has any right to be. Your goal is to locate all of the bones of Freddy Krueger and destroy them before Freddy can be resurrected. Throughout the game, you can find power-ups in the Dream World to become Dream Warriors, based on the third movie. There's a form where you throw javelins and also change gender for some reason, and there's also a ninja form where you throw stars, among other forms. The bosses themselves aren't that great. Freddy himself is pathetically easy, as he just jumps around and swipes his finger knives at you. The rest of the bosses are just disembodied parts of Freddy on balls.
Yeah, I know what I said.
But overall, Nightmare on Elm Street is okay. It's nothing but okay, but it's still okay.
Okay, well, I just got off the phone with this asshole, and he told me that that's not gonna do it either. So, I think we'll look past game consoles for a moment, and instead look at a free fan-made game released on PC. This is a fighting game called Terrordrome: Rise of the Boogeyman.
Now, I have to say, the amount of effort, time, and passion that went into this game is truly admirable. On the Terrordrome website, you can find a bunch of behind-the-scenes screenshots of all the models made for the game. That's impressive as hell for being made on someone's own time. As for the game itself, it allows you to play as your favorite slasher characters like Michael, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, Leatherface, and even lesser-known villains like Herbert West from the Reanimator series. Presentation-wise, the game has a distinct retro feel to it. The voice clips from the killers are all reused from their respective movies, but the character models and even the stage environments were made from the ground up by Hurricane Studio. It's pretty cool. As for the game itself, it's pretty standard as far as fighting games are concerned. If you're looking for a fighting game that has mechanics as deep as Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, you're gonna want to start drinking battery acid really quickly. However, if you just want a fun little fan game to play, Terrordrome might just do something for you. I mean, where else are you gonna play a game where Jason can beat the shit out of Tony Todd?
But all of this begs the question. Given the fact that so many slasher movies are about people who rip off people's body, limbs, and guts, surely they would be included in a video game series that is about ripping off people's body parts and guts. And it just so happens there is. And I have made it known that I am the biggest fan of it and have had no complaints with it whatsoever.
The franchise's concept is one that I believe to be fundamentally broken at its core. What the f is the point of the gore in Mortal Kombat? Mortal Kombat 11 is one of the most tedious and insulting fighting games I've ever played. The characters don't matter, the story doesn't matter, and even NetherRealm's own employees don't matter. Yes, of course I'm talking about Mortal Kombat. Putting all of my grievances with the series aside for a moment, one of the coolest things to come out of the NetherRealm era of Mortal Kombat was that many of the games allowed you to play as iconic villains from horror films. This all started with Mortal Kombat 9, where you could play as Freddy Krueger. Although sadly, it is based on the Freddy from the piece of shit reboot from 2010, so we're already off to a great start, NetherRealm. Aside from that though, it's honestly really cool to see Freddy Krueger fighting all of these iconic fighting game characters in an official Mortal Kombat game. Don't get me wrong, Terrordrome is an impressive as hell fan game, but actually seeing Freddy in an official big budget fighting game is truly something special. Hell, this game also had Kratos from God of War in the PS3 version of the game. As much as I criticize Mortal Kombat, I will admit that Mortal Kombat 9 is one of the best games in the series, and arguably one of the best fighting games in the last 20 years. Having Freddy Krueger, even if it's a version from a terrible movie, is just part of why that is. But was one horror guest character enough for NetherRealm? Hell no. Because in the next game, Mortal Kombat X, they introduced 4 different horror characters. Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, the Xenomorph from Alien, and Dr. Disrespect. The fact that there is a fighting game where all 4 of these characters are playable is honestly freaking awesome. Obviously with the actual Predator from the movies, not certified guy over here. Since the focus is on slasher movie games, however, I chose to focus on Jason and Leatherface. Jason might be one of the most fun characters in this entire game, and since this is Mortal Kombat X, he has 3 different variations to choose from. Slasher is pretty obvious, just slashing away with his iconic machete. Relentless exchanges the machete for being able to teleport around the opponent, just like he's known to do in the movies. It also lets him crack his neck and invert everybody's controls, which can be very scary if you don't see it coming. And Unstoppable, appropriately, makes Jason an unstoppable force, and even lets him resurrect himself like in Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives. Pretty much every aspect of Jason's abilities is represented in this game.
Which makes him one of the most fun characters to play as.
Moving on to Leatherface, on the surface, he doesn't have as much material to work with for his moveset, since he just uses a chainsaw. But weirdly enough, he's also considered one of the most fun characters in the game. I don't personally see it, since I'm admittedly not that good at Mortal Kombat X, but he apparently had a lot of stuff going on for him in this game. Man, Mortal Kombat X was something special.
And then Mortal Kombat 11 happened. You all know how I should feel about Mortal Kombat 11. Which is a good thing, because thankfully, no slasher villains appeared in the game whatsoever. Thank God!
And that leaves us with Mortal Kombat 1. The guest characters were mainly supervillains, anti-heroes, and a couple of iconic 80s and 90s movie characters, which included the best slasher movie villain ever, Ghostface. At first, Ghostface doesn't seem like anything special compared to Freddy or Jason. That said, his appearance in this game stands out for 2 reasons. Firstly, he's a slasher who speaks, giving us some entertainingly psychopathic battle exchanges.
Pretty women make the best victims.
By August, you will have no more.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Fuck movies. Nothing beats a good book.
Poor Christina. I'm afraid she's out.
What the hell did you do to her?
Second, NetherRealm had the genius idea to incorporate the fact that Ghostface isn't just one person. Not only do multiple Ghostfaces appear during the fatalities, but there are 2 more versions of Ghostface you can switch between, called Enforcer and Assassin. Altogether, the 3 Ghostfaces are Billy Loomis, Cobra, and Kira. Incorporating this aspect about Ghostface's character and making it a key aspect for his gameplay makes him one of the most fun characters in all of Mortal Kombat 1. As much as I criticize NetherRealm, I'll admit that when they do their research on a guest character, they make sure you truly feel like those characters when you play as them, and that genuinely is one of the best things about Mortal Kombat.
Well, surely that'll be enough to please whoever's calling me, right?
You really think a Mortal Kombat game will save you? That's not even a horror game. I'm sure you could think of a game to play before I gut you like a fish.
Well, there's the Friday the 13th game from 2017. Oh wait, that's no longer active. Well, Jason Voorhees appeared in Multiverses. That's no longer active either. Fortnite?
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Oh, god damn it! What is it delisted? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2023?
Yeah, believe it or not, Texas Chainsaw Massacre got a new game in 2023. This may be because of the new movie released the year prior, but this is based on the first movie, so seeing this game released nowadays is really weird. This is essentially a game of cat and mouse where the survivors have to escape the Sawyer farm, while the Sawyers themselves have to stop them. It all seems well and good so far, but there is one problem. They got the title wrong, because it should be called Texas Attention Massacre. Yeah, this game bored me, I'm sorry to say. All of the pieces are here for a fun game, but none of that means anything when you're spending most of the match getting lost and trying to figure out what the hell to do. This place is a goddamn maze, which, yes, is the whole point, but it's hard to figure out even if you're the killers, which is not what you should be feeling when playing as them. I spent several matches just trying to find any tangible objectives to do, but all I could find was feeding Grandpa blood and chasing down a survivor. If I could even find one. Most of my matches were spent running around the map just looking for something, dear God, anything to do, but I rarely ever can. Maybe it's just my fault, but nothing is made clear to you by just playing the game itself. Even the tutorials don't help that much, since they're just incredibly boring videos you watch. Watching these videos is pretty much the equivalent of sitting through a basic driver improvement course. It sucks. So yeah, I gave this game a fair shot, but it is way too dull for me to be invested.
Oh my god, I swear to god, if I don't find a good slasher game soon, I'm gonna stab myself before this creep does. Which I suppose is a good thing, because I think I may have found it. And it's called Retro Realms Halloween.
The most recent game in this video, Retro Realms Arcade, is a collection of platforming games featuring horror icons such as Michael Myers and Ash Williams. The plot of the Myers campaign is that an entity called the Overlord agrees to free Michael from prison in exchange for his services. What follows is a pretty solid platformer where you platform through different locations from the movies, slicing up any innocent bystander in your way and making it to the end of the stage. I gotta say, the presentation of this game is top-notch. This is some impressive sprite work we got here. And the enemies? They don't just die when you stab them, they explode into blood and guts. This is easily the most bloody platformer I think I've ever played. On top of that, at the press of a button, you can enter a nightmare dimension to find secret areas and obtain collectibles. Nightmare dimensions? What is this, Nightmare on Elm Street? It does admittedly get pretty repetitive after a while, since the platforming challenges don't change that much, but honestly, given every other licensed game I've played in this video, this is easily the most polished and playable out of them all. I wouldn't say it's a must-play platformer, but if all you want is a game where you can stab hundreds of people to death, you can do a lot worse than this.
There you have it, stranger. I finally found a good slasher game. Take that!
Very good, Arin. You've just gotten out of being slaughtered, but I didn't say anything about not stabbing you still.
What? That's not what you said! That's bullshit!
I'm afraid you've yet to find a good game from the Stab movies.
Well, there aren't any video games made on the Stab movies. I'm sorry, they just don't exist.
Sorry isn't good enough, Sunshine. You better find a good game where I'm playable, lest you find yourself dead by daylight.
Oh!
Yeah, of course I was going to talk about Dead by Daylight in this video. It's easily the most well-known slasher game at this point. For those of you not in the know, Dead by Daylight is a multiplayer horror game where matches consist of 4 survivors and 1 killer. The goal of the survivors is to repair 5 generators to power the doors to escape, while the killer has to make them a cake, I guess? No, obviously the killer kills the survivors. This already sounds similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game we just talked about, but the difference here is that Dead by Daylight is actually fun. Firstly, the game gives you so many different killers to choose from. There are dozens of original killers made for this game, but there are also a bunch of licensed killers from
All sorts of media.
movies, TV shows, video games, and even anime and tabletop games. The same thing applies to the survivors as well, including a bunch of your favorite Resident Evil characters, Alan Wake, and even Lara Croft. The sheer variety of different characters to play as on both the killer and survivor side makes it so that there's always something new to experience in this game. Now that's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't mean much if the game itself isn't easy to pick up and play. After all, that was the exact issue I had with the Texas Chainsaw game. Fortunately, the gameplay loop of DBD is so simple to grasp that anybody can pick it up and play it, but it's just complex enough that only a few can master it. The maps here are just big enough to lead to different interactions between killer and survivor, while not being too big so that they are confusing to navigate. like in that other game. To add some more depth into the gameplay, the game includes hundreds of different perks and add-ons to change your playstyle. Killer perks can give you information on the whereabouts of survivors, help you in chase, or even prevent generators from being worked on while certain criteria are met. Survivor perks will help you loop the killer better and give you more help to your teammates by transferring health and hook states with another survivor. There are just so many different perks to play around with and optimize, which keeps me invested in playing the game even after 100 hours. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but for me, 100 hours in a game is a long time, so it's safe to say that I really enjoy playing this game. I mean, the fact that I can play as Ghostface, sneaking around the map, catching people by surprise, and then finishing the match by stabbing Lara Croft to death makes this game super fun for me.
Yep, Dead by Daylight is a perfect multiplayer horror game that has no flaws whatsoever. If it were opposite day!
Yeah, as much as I love playing this game, most of the time, it isn't perfect. For starters, most of the perks to change your playstyle are locked behind specific killers and survivors, which not only means you have to buy or unlock a character first, but it also means you need to play as those characters up until you get them to Prestige 1, just so that you can unlock those perks for every other killer or survivor. This can be pretty alienating to a lot of people. I enjoy the game enough to want to spend money on the other characters, but the same may not be said for other people. Second, behavior as a studio is a very inconsistent one. Some days it seems like they genuinely care about the game and listen to player feedback, and other days they'll release the Hellraiser DLC as a fucking NFT just because they want to make as much money as they can. As such, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single DVD player online who won't passionately complain about behavior as a company, and it's not hard to understand why. Behavior is nothing if not inconsistent with how responsive they are to criticism, and they can be pretty aggravating to work with. But none of that is as big of an issue as the interesting player base. For whatever reason, some players, especially survivor mains, love to just be toxic in this game. From spamming flashlights to teabagging to leaving hateful messages in the endgame chat, some people just treat this game as seriously as a nuclear explosion. Thus, this makes a lot of killers toxic, which makes survivors toxic, and it just becomes a never-ending cycle of everyone being an asshole to one another. I get that it's the nature of multiplayer games to be that way, but DVD players in particular are so nasty about their toxicity that it may turn some people away from the game entirely. So with all that being said, if you could get past the toxic players, the copious amounts of paid DLC, and behavior's questionable decisions as a company, I think you may find DBD to be one of the most enjoyable multiplayer experiences out there right now. Or not. I mean, I'm just a furry. I'm not a serial killer.
You know, speaking of serial killers, I wonder if that guy's been calling me is finally a... Oh, shit.
Oh, shit! Ah! Why does this always happen to me every Halloween? Ah! Ow! 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 Ow!
I was gonna gut him anyway. And remember, viewers, stay strong and live life. 'Cause this guy sure didn't. Special thank you to the gold tier Patreons on Patreon, including Ed and AnthonyM, the gamer artist. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let us all agree to never be creative again.
So yeah, that's my first time getting murdered on screen in anything.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Feels pretty great.